You know that specific, slightly terrifying feeling when you're deeply in the zone on a project?
Oh, absolutely.
You put your head down, you're working away, and what feels like maybe 10 minutes goes by. You look up at the clock, and 4 hours have just vanished.
Gone. It's disorienting.
But then you flip the script. You're at the DMV, or, you're stuck in a meeting that definitely could have been an email.
Ugh, the worst.
And time just, it curdles.
Yeah.
5 minutes feels like an entire geological era.
It's a universal human condition, isn't it? We usually just dismiss it with that old cliche, time flies when you're having fun.
Right, we just write it off as a psychological quirk, just a trick of the mind. But what if I told you that sensation isn't a trick? What if that feeling is actually your brain registering a fundamental law of physics?
It sounds like a massive overreach, I know. But the research we're looking at today suggests that your intuition about time, that it stretches and compresses, is actually more accurate than the clock on your wall.
Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are tackling a really dense, fascinating text. It's titled The Architecture of Time: How Structure Gives Time Its Direction by Dr. Nimrod Israeli.
And honestly, this isn't just about time management. This rewires how you understand reality itself.
It really does, because the
Mhm.
central premise here challenges, the most basic assumption we have, that time is a neutral container.
Exactly. We think of time as this empty box we're all just floating in, ticking away at the same speed, no matter what we do.
And Dr. Israeli is saying, no, that container doesn't even exist unless you build it.
Precisely.
So let's set the scene a little. The text starts by pointing out that for most of human history, time as we know it barely registered.
Right. If you go back to, say, an ancient agricultural society, life was cyclical. The sun comes up, the sun goes down, the seasons return. If you're a farmer in 3000 BC, you don't need a stopwatch. You don't need milliseconds. You need, like, yesterday, today, and tomorrow.
Which sounds blissful, honestly. But today, we are obsessed with precision. We live in milliseconds. The text mentions how we live between these deadlines that vanish almost as soon as they appear.
It feels like time is fragmenting.
Yeah, and the question is, why? Why does the quality of time feel so different now compared to, say, 500 years ago?
And the text argues the answer lies in something called the Universal Law of Increasing Complexity, or ULIC.
Okay, that sounds like a mouthful. Let's unpack the core argument before we get into the jargon.
Let's do it.
The text makes a really bold statement right at the start. Time is not what passes. Time is what changes.
That is the fundamental definition. Time is completely inseparable from transformation. If nothing changes in a meaningful way, time effectively just disappears.
But, and this is the nuance that tripped me up at first, change alone isn't enough. So if I just have random chaos, that's not time.
No, that's just noise. The source uses this beautiful analogy of a rock thrown into a body of water.
Okay, walk me through that.
So you throw a rock, it creates ripples, right? But imagine the water is in an infinite empty void. There's no shore, there's no boat, there's no observer.
Right.
Those ripples just spread out and eventually vanish into nothingness. They just dissolve.
So the event happened, but it wasn't caught by anything.
Precisely. For time to have a direction, for it to exist in a meaningful way, you need something to catch those ripples. You need a structure.
This was the aha moment for me. Time is the result of structure holding transformation.
That's it. If the structure is strong enough to hold the change, you get time. If the structure is too weak, well, the change just breaks it and you get chaos.
Okay, so this brings us to the key metric in the text. It's a made-up word, but it's crucial for this whole theory. Genoro.
Genoro. It sounds a bit like a sci-fi villain.
Or a distinct type of cheese.
It does, but it actually stands for the degree of structural order and functional complexity within a system.
So basically, how good is a system at holding on to change?
That's the perfect summary.
And the text breaks this down into 3 states. I really want to go through these carefully because I think our listeners will immediately recognize them in their own lives.
Oh, definitely.
The first state is genostatic.
Right. Genostatic is low complexity, high stability. So think of that ancient village we talked about. Every day is the same, the structure holds, but nothing really transforms. The Genordo is flat.
So time feels repetitive. It's boredom, stagnation.
Or safety, you could say. But yes, stagnation. Then you have the complete opposite end of the spectrum, Menordo.
Which sounds like where a lot of modern people live.
Unfortunately, yes.
Okay.
Menordo is when the pressure of change is just too high for the structure to handle. The structure collapses. Coherence is lost.
This is burnout. This is a company pivoting so fast that nobody knows what their job is anymore.
Exactly. In Menordo, time loses its direction. It fragments. You're busy, you're exhausted, but you aren't building anything. It's just entropy taking over.
And then the goal, the holy grail state, El Tordo.
El Tordo. This is where the structure is sophisticated enough to not only hold itself together, but to hold the tension of change and actually use it to evolve. The book calls it self-transforming coherence.
So in El Tordo, time accelerates, but it doesn't break you.
Yeah.
You metabolize the change.
That's a great way to put it. You metabolize it. And the text traces this ability right back to biology.
Yeah, let's talk about the biology, because I found the distinction between animals and humans here really provocative. The text says animals experience implicit time. What does that even mean?
Well, look at a tree or a dog. They endure time,
Yeah.
right? A tree grows, it loses its leaves, it dies, it has seasons. But that time is encoded in its genes. A dog doesn't sit around reminiscing about the good old days or worrying about its legacy in 10 years.
They live in the eternal now.
Right. They don't have a history in the way we understand it. But then something happens in human evolution. We shift to explicit time.
And the trigger for that shift is grim.
It is. It's the fear of death, the realization that I am going to disappear.
So the text argues that this fear created a psychological pressure that that biology alone just couldn't contain. We needed a new container.
Exactly. So we started externalizing time.
Yeah.
We made handprints on cave walls. We told myths. We built institutions.
I loved the point the author made about those cave paintings. I mean, from a purely Darwinian perspective, painting a hand on a wall is a waste of energy.
But always.
It doesn't help you hunt a mammoth. It doesn't keep you warm.
No, it serves zero survival function. Its function is existential. Its purpose is to preserve identity, to make sure that what was remains present even after the body is gone.
That allowed humans to build time rather than just endure it. We created a shared continuity.
It's like we built an external hard drive because our internal RAM wasn't big enough.
That is a perfect analogy. Culture, art, laws, these are the structures we built to catch the ripples.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've established the sociology and the biology, but then the text takes a hard left turn into physics. And I have to admit, I had to read the section twice.
It's a heavy lift.
It attempts to bridge Einstein's relativity and quantum mechanics using this Ginordo concept.
Which is, the biggest tension in modern physics.
So let's look at the quantum side first. The source says that at the quantum level, subatomic particles' time often just disappears from the equations. Why?
It goes right back to structure. Think about an electron. It doesn't have internal parts that age or rearrange in the way a car engine does.
Okay.
So from the perspective of a particle, the moment of its creation and the moment of its interaction are often indistinguishable.
Because nothing accumulated inside it.
Exactly. There's no before and after inside the particle because there's no structural change recorded within it. It's just interaction. So in the quantum realm, time is essentially zero.
But then you zoom out to our level, or the level of stars' relativity, time is very real there.
Very real. Because massive objects have deep, deep structure. Gravity, in this view, isn't just bending space. It's holding energy and continuity together. And because the structure is so dense, it can hold transformation.
And so time slows, or takes shape, near those massive objects.
Yes. And this brings us to the speed of light.
Right. I've always understood the speed of light as the cosmic speed limit. You know, the police officer of the universe saying, you can't go faster than this.
That's the standard textbook view.
Mm.
But Dr. Israeli offers a twist that I think is brilliant. He argues that the speed of light isn't a speed limit. It's a structural boundary.
What does that mean? A structural boundary?
It means that at the speed of light, structure itself dissolves. If you move at that speed, you cannot hold internal structure. You become pure energy. And if you can't hold structure...
You can't register transformation.
Exactly. So your internal time collapses to zero. Not because of some cosmic rule, but because the machinery of time, the structure falls apart.
If you can't hold the ripples, you don't have time.
You got it.
This actually explains the Big Bang paradox the text mentioned. I've always been confused by this. The idea that the early universe expanded faster than light.
Right. People always ask, how can it expand faster than light if nothing can go faster than light?
And the answer...
The answer from this text is, because there were no stable structures yet. There were no atoms, no stars, nothing to register before and after.
So the speed limit didn't apply because there was no traffic yet.
Essentially, time literally didn't exist as a dimension yet because the complexity, the Ginordo, wasn't high enough to hold it. Expansion wasn't constrained by time because time hadn't even formed.
That is That is mind-bending. It reframes time from being a background stage to being an emergent property.
Like wetness is to water.
Exactly.
Time comes into existence only when structure is complex enough to hold it.
Okay, I need to bring this back down to Earth before we float away into the cosmos.
Good idea.
Because the text explicitly applies this to things like startups and organizations.
It does. And this is where it gets very practical for anyone listening who runs a team or manages projects.
Talk to me about internal versus external time in a company.
So think about a high-growth startup, a unicorn. Inside that company, everyone is working incredibly hard. Days feel normal, maybe exhausting, but consistent. But if you look at it from the outside, looking back after a year, a massive amount of transformation has happened.
They've gone from two people in a garage to a global corporation.
Right. That is a system in El Tordo. The structure of the company, their culture, their tech stack, their management was able to hold and metabolize a huge amount of pressure. So their external time, their history accelerated. They did 10 years of work in 1 year.
Okay, now contrast that with a failing organization. We've all seen this.
The busy but broken company. Inside, it's panic mode. Everyone is running around. People are stressed. It feels incredibly busy. The internal clock is just racing.
But looking from the outside.
It looks frozen. They're expending all this energy. But the structure is in Menordo. It's collapsing. It can't hold the change. So all that effort just dissolves into noise. No history is being written.
That is such a calling out of modern corporate culture. Being busy doesn't mean you're creating time. It just means you're expending energy.
And unless the structure holds it, you're just splashing in the water. Effort does not equal transformation. Structure plus pressure equals transformation.
The text uses the kibbutz movement as a specific example of this.
Yes, the Israeli kibbutz. In the early days, the daily labor was repetitive, just hard farming work. But the social structure was so strong, so aligned ideologically, that they transformed their society in a remarkably short period, high Ginordo.
And then later.
Later, as the ideology eroded or the structure became rigid genostatic, the daily routine was the same. The clock ticked at the same speed, but the historical momentum just stopped. They entered stagnation.
It really challenges the way we think about progress. We usually think hard work leads to progress, but this says hard work leads to progress only if the structure can translate it.
Which brings us to a major scientific point the text makes about entropy.
The second law of thermodynamics. Entropy disorder always increases. We usually think of entropy as the enemy.
Right. We think time flows because things decay. We get old, buildings crumble, coffee gets cold.
But the source flips this.
It says complexity is not the opposite of entropy. Complexity contains entropy.
Explain that.
A system with high Ginordo, like a living body or a thriving city, it doesn't block out entropy. It absorbs the pressure of it and uses it to grow. It metabolizes the chaos.
So time doesn't flow because things are falling apart. It flows because structures are rising to meet the pressure.
Yes. The arrow of time, according to Dr. Israeli, isn't pointing toward death, it's pointing toward emergence. Where structure holds, time takes form.
That is a much more optimistic view of the universe, I have to say. It implies we have agency.
It absolutely empowers us. Because it means we aren't just victims of time passing, we are architects of it.
So let's look at the so what here. If I'm a listener and I'm feeling overwhelmed by the speed of modern life, I feel that Menordo chaos creeping in, what does this theory tell me?
It tells you that if you feel like time is fragmenting or slipping away, the answer isn't to try and manage time better with a calendar app.
Right.
The answer is to look at your structures.
Your personal structures.
Your routines, your relationships, your mental models. Are they in a state of Menordo collapsing under stress? Are they genostatic, just holding on but not evolving? Or are you building structures that can hold the transformation you're going through?
It's about building capacity.
It is. If you want to slow down the chaos and create meaningful time, you have to build a structure that can hold the pressure without breaking.
This applies to our societies, too.
Desperately. If our institutions, our governments, our schools can't hold the pressure of technological change, we slide into Menordo. We get social fragmentation. The solution is to increase the Ginordo, the structural complexity, to match the pressure.
It's a call to action to be builders, to be architects of time.
We write history through the structures we build.
I want to leave the listeners with a final thought that was tucked away in the annex of the text. It's a provocative question that honestly kept me up last night.
Oh, the dimensional question.
Yeah. We take for granted that time is a dimension, like length, width, depth. But the text asks, is time actually a dimension at all, or is it just a consequence?
It suggests that time only behaves like a dimension when structure is stable. When structure fails, the dimension itself dissolves.
Which is terrifying.
It means we're walking on a platform that we ourselves have to maintain. If the structure goes, the floor drops out, not just of society, but of reality itself.
A sobering thought to end on. If you want time to exist, you have to build something strong enough to keep it.
Ideally, something in El Tordo.
Ideally. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the architecture of reality.
Keep building.
See you next time.